Hello, I'm John Michael Riley, and I'm currently an assistant professor at Oklahoma State University. And this is the second of 3 videos that should offer some insight into a hedging game I created in the fall of 2015 for some courses I teach here. I frequently use this in our senior level commodity futures markets course, and I occasionally use it in an ag markets and price analysis junior level course. This second video will offer some behind the scenes look at what kind of goes into what the students see. If you haven't already looked at video number 1, I encourage you to start there because it offers what the actual operation of the game, kind of in the moment, what the students see and how the game functions for the student. Again, the second video, the goal is to kind of give you some insights into what plays into that, what data are utilized in that game. And then a third video offers a look at the form where the students submit their decision making as well as a tabulation sheet. A caveat before we get started is that any minor errors that I make, any lapses of speech, I apologize in advance for. And also, we're going to be digging into a spreadsheet here, and I hope I'm not alone when I say that I know what I'm doing in my spreadsheet, but an outside individual probably would not. I try to make my sheets organized, but I'm sure I leave some stuff to be, it could be better, and you'll see that obviously. But again, the goal of this video is to give you some insight, to kind of let you behind the scenes, to let you into my brain, if you will, to kind of see the method to the madness. This sheet, all the sheets, all the materials will be available online, and so take a look. If there's anything that's missing, obviously let me know. So with that being said, let's jump into this second video, and let's go back to this front page that the students see. And just to kind of quickly recap some information from the first video, the students are provided information about an eastern Nebraska corn farm, 1,000 acres. They make hedging decisions. They make futures market decisions at 3 different time points during the corn growing season: at planting, at emergence, at midsummer, and then harvest information. Actual outcomes are revealed at harvest. So this video is going to just kind of show you how these sheets are put together, the information that flows into them. So to start, we actually have to go back to the raw data. So cash prices and futures prices were collected from 1998 through 2015. Now, I didn't have yield data for 2015, so I stopped this at the 2014 year. So essentially, we've got 17 years of actual raw cash and futures prices, where the futures market price is the December contract over time, and the cash price comes from USDA Ag Marketing Service for Omaha, Nebraska. All of this is collected on a year-to-year basis and is provided here column by column for each specific actual growing year. So these are the nominal values for prices, cash prices and futures prices. I didn't want a specific year to play a role, the nominal aspect of it, so I tried to normalize prices and I tried to normalize yields. We'll start here with prices. I normalized it on the most recent cash prices I had. And so I built in an index and I related everything to the most current market time period, the freshest that I had. Now, this game hasn't been updated since I built it in the fall of 2015, so obviously that's probably a task that could be tackled here, is to bring in more recent information so that it's even more current. But still, all of this is normalized to that 2014-2015 time period. So moving to the next adjustment of prices, so what we might call a real price, those nominal prices, those actually reported prices for futures and for cash, are then adjusted based on that index. So here we've taken the 1998 actual cash and futures prices and just adjusted them on an index value of 60.5%. Okay, and I do that for each specific known crop year for both cash and futures. Now, the cash prices, I do this, but in all reality, I only need the one cash price at harvest. So, but I collected the data, so I threw it in here. Moving to yield, I have the yield from USDA National Ag Statistics Service for Washington County, Nebraska. Again, that's the Omaha region area. and I have the yield going back 1960, but we only have cash prices from 1998 through 2015. At the time that I created the game, I did not have the county level yield, so I had to stop at 2014. So yields are not, or have been actual yields for each specific year are provided, and then I adjusted to trend, and I predicated this on the 2014 yield available. So all of this is trend adjusted for based on year, and is driven off of the 2014 technology. So I've got trend adjusted yields in the second column over from the actual, or the next column over from the actual yields, and those are the yields that are used in the game. All right, so that's kind of where, just a brief explanation of the data that are used to drive this game. So we'll move to 4chart-1 sheet, which is my attempt to organize the data a little bit better, and in this case, the cash price data a little bit more succinct. So I've just pulled in from those adjusted values for cash and futures. I've just pulled in from that sheet and just cleaned it up a little bit. Got those futures prices, kind of side by side over the different specific crop years. Again, these are the adjusted prices indexed off of the most current time period. I don't reveal the actual years to the students. We just call them crop year 1, crop year 2. But this current spreadsheet that we're looking at here is just my attempt to organize the data a little bit. I also do that with cash, but again, we're not really worried about cash prices until harvest. So actual cash prices are just pulled from that harvest time period. And then I've got some information here that I feeds into basis, and then cost. So I just calculate a basis value. I provide that, and if you go year to year to year, if you follow sequential years, your basis will actually be relevant. If you jump around, which I typically do for a couple of reasons, but if you jump around that basis, if the students are playing the game and you've got a really sharp student, they may say, hey, this isn't a 5-year average basis, because what feeds into it is a 5-year average based on the previous 5-year, and it's a 5-year Olympic in this case. So with that being said, a sharp student might catch that. I've never had anybody say, hey, these basis values aren't adding up. But again, I just want to put that caveat in. If you jump around in the years that you choose, you may not have that basis, and that could be an improvement on the game. All of this then, so all of these prices from this 4chart-1 sheet are then move into 4chart-2. So this is what the student sees. I never really scroll down below to show them what I'm about to show you here in the day of the game, but this is where I have, let me reduce the size of this. I blow it up so that they can see it fairly easy, but this essentially is what feeds into the charts. So if we think about the planting time period chart, it is stopping at the 4th of April point in time. And then as we think about the emergence chart, it pulls in all of that information up to the 30th of May, the end of May. The midsummer pulls in all of that same information up until the middle of July. And then our harvest time pulls in all of that information. And then it also pulls in harvest, where that is a lookup for the actual yield for the crop year. All right, so let me blow this back up just for ease of looking. That then leads us to what the students see at the beginning. So if we think about what the students see at the beginning, we're actually pulling in an average yield for from the yield history. We're actually pulling in one of these rolling averages. And again, I typically think about a 10-year rolling average. You may want to use a 15. I calculated a 15 and 20, just kind of play around with it. There wasn't enough variation there. I just pull in a 10-year rolling average. So from whichever specific year you pull from. So how do we pull a specific year? We just choose a value from 2 until 18. Why did I start at 2? I don't really know. I started at 2. But 2 to 18 covers those 17 years of data that we have. Again, if we've normalized it, everything should kind of be should carry from one crop year to the next without huge fluctuations in prices or yields. So I don't typically go sequentially. You can go sequentially, obviously, but I like to just jump around to try to bring in some variation. Also, so the students don't think I'm just completely making things up. A lot of times I'll say pick a number between 2 and 18, but don't choose 4 in this case, because 4 here, you can barely see it. I kind of shade it out a little bit just so the students aren't keying in on that. But this is my example year, and this is what we looked at in video 1 was this 4th crop year, which in essence is, what would that be? That would be 99. That'd be 2001. So that's what I use for my example. But then that number choice is utilized as a lookup to bring in the expected yield, the expected basis, the futures price at planting, and also it updates these charts that feed into the figures, or the data that feed into the figures. The variable cost production is a little bit different, and again, this is probably an improvement that could be made, but it's just essentially it's a random calculation. So if I look at what the average futures price is, I take about 85% of that to think about what the average cost production may be, and then I randomly choose a number from 85% to 15% below to 15% above that value to then randomly assign a cost of production. If the cost of production is really high, I don't want to discourage anyone. I try to throw that out. If it's just a really high cost of production, I try not to let that influence too much the game. So essentially, I cap it at the third smallest futures price over the time period. Just to keep it from cost production being too much that students say, why are we even doing this if the cost production is so high? Just to kind of keep people in the game. So that cost production, it's a little bit random. That's another improvement that we can make in the game. So all of that then feeds into this 4chart-2 spreadsheet. And again, so the prices kind of feed in below what the students see. And then as we move into the sheet, you see here that the 4-2 is just this figure is pulling from that information that flows into 4-2. And then emergence, again, pulling in that information that flows into 4-2, pulling in that information and pulling in that information. I hope I have described kind of the background of where the data comes from in a manner that you could follow. Obviously, like I said at the beginning of this video, if there are further questions, don't hesitate to contact me.